I won't lie, I went to bed high last night. I'm not ashamed to say.
Yo, what is going on? It's DJ Crowley once again. It's Simmer Down live from home. And we've got the one, the only ass in the house. Logan, Artikal Sound System. What is going on?
Not too much. Thanks for having me today, Alex.
Hey, it's a pleasure. You know, I figured we would just have this whole interview about Dua Lipa. I'm just
Oh my God.
No, man, we don't play that game here. This is not
Thank
the
you.
news. This is not the news. That was a joke, and you guys are funny, man. That's the whole thing with you guys, and we're gonna get into this whole funny thing, later on. But I do want to tell you kind of how I heard about you guys. I was on tour. I think it was with the Elevators, and I think it was Old Duderman came up to me. And we were talking about, bands that we should check out. He's like, yeah, there's this band, Artikal Sound System. I saw there was like 3 people in the room. And as soon as I saw them, I was like, oh my God, man, these guys are amazing, unique, so different. Tell us about Artikal Sound System for everybody that doesn't know.
Well, we're a 5-piece, kind of like reggae rock band, based out of South Florida. Like you said, we all live about 2 miles from each other in the Delray, Boynton Beach area. So we're on the east coast of Florida, and the boys were a band for about 10 years before I joined. They had, I think 14 other singers, and a lot of them were based out of the Caribbean and coming back and forth between there and Miami. And then I joined about 5 years ago, just as kind of a fill-in singer for a couple of gigs. And then we ended up just getting along really well, and it kind of started becoming something a little bit different than it was and more of what it is now. And we're still kind of honing our sound and figuring out what the most authentic music we can all make as a combination of the 5 of us. But so far we're having a pretty killer time, and we've gotten a tour around the country a bunch, and we just like making music and being silly on the internet.
Absolutely, man. If you're just tuning in, you're late. We got ass in the house. Well, Logan from Artikal Sound System. And man, we've never chatted before. We were in Asheville, and Blue is like, hey, I'm pretty sure that's the lead singer of Artikal Sound System. I was like, no way. She's on tour right now. And there you were. And I'm so glad we got to get this combo going. I want to get straight to it. ASS. Okay, so who, and how did this all come about, the ass thing?
So the boys, it's kind of an argument that we have in the band, but the boys, the band already had the name before I joined, and Artikal, it's Jamaican patois, or Jamaican slang for the best, or the real deal, I think is the closest way to describe it. And so that's why they named it that. And since they did have kind of rotating singers, that's closer to what a traditional sound system is. And a band that would back various singers. And then we just kind of kept rolling with that name, and everyone kind of takes ownership over the ass thing, and that was my idea, but let me tell it my way. I remember joining this band and being like, did you guys realize that the acronym for our band is ass? And they were like, yeah, but we didn't do that on purpose, and we try and lean away from it. And I was coming from a band called Eternal Boner, so I was like, no, you have to lean into that stuff. Sex sells, baby. So, we all kind of Adam claims it was his idea, and, Fabian claims it was his, but whatever it is, ass is definitely now a big part of what we do.
Well, you guys are funny, man. And when I was interviewing Sheehan, he dropped your name and he said, I honestly think Artikal's Social is the best in the scene. They make me laugh. Why is it so important to laugh in a band?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, because I think when we saw that when we were down at Closer to the Sun, and we were so touched that he would mention us, and that you guys were even talking about us for a second. So thank you. And that was a nice thing to say. But I think it's important to laugh as a band, because there's a lot of I always describe being a musician as being an addict, because you will do anything to perform, anything to make music, anything to pursue your dream. And a lot of that involves sleeping on the floor and not making a lot of money and putting yourself in circumstances that you would normally like would not want to be in, but they're fine and palatable because they're all like towards the end goal. So I think laughing helps you get through a lot, and it like really bonds all of us together. And it's also a really great way for us to be passive aggressive with one another without like being just straight up aggressive. But we do have fun being silly on the internet. And we also want like we think social media is such a great tool to get to know people and for people to get to know us. Because I think that like it's so cool to feel like you know a band, and it makes it way easier to root for them. Like I see like some of these bands that I've never met before and never interacted with, but I feel like I know them because of the internet, and that's such a valuable tool that you can easily take for granted.
You talk about that, you are right. I'm not a big fan of technology and social media and all that, but one thing it has done is brought the family and the bands, I don't call them fans, I call them family, closer. It used to be like, how do you get to know this band? How do you, do this, do that? It was a process. Nowadays, you can literally DM the band, and most of the time they'll get back to you.
Yeah. Unless it's me. Sometimes I'm really bad about that, which I'm sorry.
It's all right. Hey, guys, just tuning in. You're late. It's all good. We got Ass in the House, Artikal Sound System out of South Florida. I want to talk about Florida a little bit. You say you're from Boynton Beach area. That's funny. My grandparents lived in Boynton Beach when they retired, and I was down there so very much. That was the beach that we all went to when we were growing up. Your record's called Welcome to Florida. Why is Florida such a special place?
It's funny because we're doing this tour right now called Welcome to Florida, and it's like our first headliner through the state. And so we've really been pushing like on our socials that like, hey, like Florida gets a bad rap, because it does, with like the Florida man thing and like all the news story. There's like a lot of also like terrible stuff that goes on here. But I mean, like it's warm pretty much year round. I love that. Like I was making like a little gratitude list last night, and one of the things on there was like, oh, I love that I live in like a warm, sunny place. It really keeps the spirits up. The beaches, I mean, we've traveled all over. I've been to beaches everywhere down in Mexico, and I love California so much. I think it's like elite out there. It's amazing. But I think we have the best beaches over here on the east coast of Florida. And I don't know. It's just full of weirdos. I like being in a place full of weirdos. I like the Florida man thing.
There's nothing wrong with being weird. I think the weirder the better. And you say, yeah, it does get a bad rap, but there is so much unbelievable music and people coming out of that state. It is like the California of the East Coast, if you think about it, for our scene.
I think so. I mean, you got like great bands like Cashed Out. You got Sierra Lane, who's just like on a rocket right now, and Joey Calderau is killing it. Drifting Roots they're coming out with us on our run that we're about to do next weekend. The Resolvers are some of our favorites. Those are like our best friends down here. So we feel really lucky to be the Reese Brothers, to be surrounded by so much good music.
The Hip Abduction, it goes on. It goes on.
Yeah.
So, all right, I want to dig into the music a little bit. You said you earlier that you're still trying to kind of dial in your sound and kind of what you guys do. I think the unique thing about you guys is you're funny, of course, but the sound is wherever we want to go. It kind of seems like Welcome to Florida. You have, these kind of hip hop kind of themes tracks, and then you go straight roots. I mean, it goes all over the place. Where do you think the sound is going with Artikal?
I don't know. It's a tough thing for me to commit on, but I think we're liking, we put that single out, YDKM, and in September we got to do a run with this band called Highly Suspect, and they're just like a straight ahead rock band. And I would love to inject a little bit of that in there. I don't know that we'll ever like totally get off the reggae thing, because that just feels like there's just something so nice about like a reggae bubble.
Yes.
But I think that I think we'll see like a little bit more like rock coming out of us. I think a good way to describe it, I know it's like kind of a cop out because it's such a catch-all term, but would be like alternative. I think would be the direction that things are headed.
You know, and that's okay. In our scene, we're lucky, you know, like we're in the reggae family, right? But it just because you're in the you know you're in the reggae family doesn't necessarily have to mean you have to play all reggae music. You know,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
it's a crazy thing. You look at Little Stranger, you know, I was talking to the boys about that, and you know, you don't have to be all reggae. This family is bigger than reggae, I think.
It is. I mean, you look at like atmosphere is such a part of this scene, and like you said, Little Stranger. There's room for lots of stuff, and I think the most important thing about it is that it is a scene. Like I think we're really lucky, especially as bands, that there's like this massive family like waiting to accept you with open arms. And it's really nice. It feels like it's growing and it's cool that it's supportive of different genres within this little scene that we have.
Yeah, and you don't really see that within any other scene, to my knowledge. You know, we look at all of our bills on our festivals, and it's so diverse. You know, you can go any direction you want.
It's very cool.
Yeah. All right. So if you're just tuning in, once again, you're late. You're late. We got Logan in the house. We're doing the welcome to Florida thing today. It's all about Artikal. And we're talking about, you know, the tunes and the direction it's going and all that. You know, I want to talk about the Sugar Shack for a second. And Ed texted me a little bit ago. He said the scene needed Artikal sound system. We all know the scene is a very male heavy thing. So having Logan step into such a stellar group of musicians that make up the band and just take it to a whole nother level has been a lot of fun to watch. I think they're unstoppable and have a bright future coming their way. Tell us about that first Sugar Shack you guys did.
That was so nice. You're like, well, that was so nice of him to say. The first Sugar Shack, I don't know. It was just really wild. Like we were so excited to get there. I mean, it feels like being in like hallowed ground, you know, it's like a famous place to all of us. And I think like the first thing we all said is we were like, wow, I can't believe they fit all these bands in this like tiny space. Like that porch is tiny.
Yeah.
But you get there and like I think one thing that they're so good at there, aside from like all the obvious, which is like the audio and the visual um and just staying organized. Like those guys have a lot going on and they're really on top of it, but they're so good at the hospitality. You know, like nobody really knows who we are, but especially then, like the first time we went through there, I think we've been there I want to say we've been there like 3 times now. But the first time we went through there, like nobody knew who we were and they still treated us like we were rock stars and made us feel really cool. And we were all super nervous. And I had my hair dyed like rainbow like earlier that week for for it, and I ended up having to wash it, and so it's like pastel by the time we get to it. We were all just like so excited, like, oh, what are we gonna wear, and like which songs are we gonna play, and it felt really cool, and it felt like we were like those were some of like the first friends that we made in the industry, and they've been wonderful to us ever since.
They're talented, they're unique, and most importantly, they're good people. And that, I mean, they're the best people, and they've done so much for our family. Could you imagine this scene without the Sugar Shack? I mean,
I say it all the time, but I feel like everywhere we go, we hear it at least 5 times. Like every show we play, like I found y'all in Sugar Shack. I found y'all in Sugar Shack. Like it's really crucial to the whole scene. I mean, that's how I found Little Stranger. And I'm forever indebted to them because of just that band alone. But it's really cool. It's a good way to stay plugged in to like keep your eye on who's coming on that page.
Guess what? That's how
Well,
we found you. You
hell
know,
yeah.
I
See?
mean, that's how it happened. You know, and I talk with Ed. He's got a little alien. I talk with Ed all the time, you know, about, you know, bands that we're, you know, thinking about and come up and comers and everything. And, you know, it's just such a powerful, powerful, beautiful place. And Ed, the whole crew, Randy, if you guys know, you know, Justin's new name is Randy because he's got the mullet. But
Oh,
we
okay.
we we love you so much. And so that I think it was that first song. Was it Time? I was that the first one? I think that it was Time that we saw.
Okay.
And that's one thing with your music. I see this thing with time. You talk about time a lot. Tell us about the idea of that within your writing and the music.
Oh man. Okay. I guess I'm like not cognizant of that. I think that like I think I might be reaching an age, and like when I started writing, like I felt I wrote the song Time that we wrote that when I was like in a weird place in my life because I was 28 and I had just like exited this relationship I had been in for like 10 years, and I had basically been like a housewife that whole time. And then I felt like my life was like just starting at like 28. Like I was like just starting to live for myself. And I was like, wow, I feel like I've lost so much time, which now I've reframed, and I don't feel like that was like lost time. That was like still part of my development. I like love myself and who I am. I wouldn't be that without those times or whatever. But I felt like, wow, like, you know, I want to make up for lost time. I want to like live a bunch during this period, and like I need to also remind myself that just because like some of my friends are like starting to settle down and have kids, like doesn't mean that I'm not exactly where I need to be in my life. But I do think that like time causes me a lot of anxiety on like every thing. Like I am constantly running late, and I'm constantly like missing deadlines. And so I think time is still one of those things that's like showing me myself and showing where I need to grow. So maybe that's why I'm writing about it a lot.
Yeah, I always have thought that when you go through like the toughest situation, the absolute rock bottom toughest situations in life, time is really honestly the only thing that heals it, because that's it.
Yeah.
So, I'm really, you guys have been on the radar for me and Blue for quite a while now, and it's really great to kind of dig in. I know I get deeper in interviews because I really want to make it a conversation and not an interview. And what you guys do is this like very like intense, you write about intense stuff sometimes, yet there's always this happy drop in the song, and I noticed that in your music, like a lot of songs like Dissolve and On Time and Come On Over and all that, you start with this very simple, ethereal almost feel, and then there's just boom, drop to happy. Have you noticed that within your music?
I think so, because I think I want to strike a balance. Like, I think I want to strike a balance when we're writing of what feels authentic and feels real, and like not shying away from maybe like some real topics, whether it's like heartache or looking at yourself or looking at the world. But like, I think that overall, like our entire band has like a real spirit of optimism. And so we want to like kind of uh not be too corny, but always come back to that everything's going to be okay, because I think that's how we all really feel.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about some funny stuff.
Okay.
So, I mean, in the beginning of the interview, like I was saying, you guys, one of the unique things about you is you're funny. Is there a story that will just keep you laughing no matter what, anytime it's said, forever?
Oh man, I'm sure I have like plenty of them. um I mean, one of them, and I feel really bad because we've been talking about this a lot lately, but like, man, Chris was going through something. Our guitarist Chris, like, if you see him, you have to like tell Chris that you know who he is, because Fabian has the dreadlocks, so he's really recognizable. Adam has like the tattoos, he's got the beard, he's really recognizable. I'm the only girl, and Cope has like the curly hair, but Chris just looks like the most normal white guy. And people will come up to him at like the merch table and be like, oh, like, hey man, that band was awesome. Like, when are they coming off stage? And I'll be like, me, I'm in that band. So he was going through this like, crisis, and he dyed his hair blue. We were on this tour with Fortunate Youth. He dyed his hair blue to stand out. And then one night he's like, hey guys, I'm gonna crowd surf tonight. And we were all like, that's bold. Okay. And he like coordinated with the photographer and was like, I'm gonna set the guitar down during this part, and then I'm gonna like leap into the crowd. And like it couldn't have gone worse. He like leapt onto these women and they all just like scattered. And like since he had coordinated it with the photographer, she just caught him like falling, and like all of these like horrified women like stepping out of the way.
So they documented it too.
Oh, it's like, yeah, and there's pictures of it on our Instagram like recently. Like this happened years ago, but I reposted them again recently. And like, God, like I think if you ask anyone in the band, that would be one of their favorite stories, probably. But yeah, it was pretty good. So nobody in the band has attempted to crowd surf after that.
Oh my God. So yeah. They all just, he's like, all right, I'm doing it, and all the media were right there, and then they just like separated, and they
like the scenes recorded for Chris to just like eat shit on like Chicago brick floors.
Oh man. Man, there's nothing funnier than tour. There's nothing scarier than tour. There's nothing cooler than tour. Tour is tour, and the things that happen on tour are just something that if you haven't experienced it, you don't know, because it's some of the wildest stuff ever.
The best and the worst all at once.
Yep, absolutely. So hey, what's coming up? I know you guys have probably a busy year, man. That Florida Grooves Festival with our homies TV Corporation, headlining that one with all the family underneath it. You got tours coming up. I'm sure you got more new music. Tell us about it.
We're super excited. We've got, like I said, our first headlining shows in the state at the end of this month. So I guess like that's next week. And then I'm going out for Camp Fest to celebrate the life of Andy Chavez. Out in Arizona. That's the first weekend of February. Then after that, we're headed out to Cali Vibes in Long Beach. And from there, we pick up our tour with Ayaterra. And we've got some shows with the Movement and the Elevators too. And then I think the whole thing comes back home on March 5th here in Florida at Okeechobee Fest. And then we've got festivals here and there throughout, Florida Groves being one of them, which we are really pumped about.
Oh, Florida Groves. I didn't even know that.
I think it's Florida Grove. But when you said Grooves, I was like, damn, I don't even know. So
I'll figure out
after this. But it's one of those.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You guys are just like Ed said, man. You're unstoppable. And with Dan, Dan the man. When Dan the man Sheehan says something like that, man, I think you guys have a very bright future. And it's been a blast chatting with you, Logan, for sure. Especially that story about Chris.
Jesus, I know, and he's gonna be like, dude, you couldn't have come up with anything else, but that really is the first thing that comes to mind. So sorry, Chris.
Hey, I mean, he does, everybody in the band always has a role, and, I've been, interacting with him through the business stuff, through email. He's great. And he, you guys, as Chris and Fabian, right, have, started this band in 2011, 2012. Is that right?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So they've been working their asses off. So props to Chris, for, fighting all these years. And look where you are now, Chris,
And eating brick.
Eating brick.
Eating brick. Oh my God. I'm so sorry, Chris.
Oh, we love you, Chris. We love Artikal, man. Hey, real quick, how can everybody find you out there?
You can go to our website, artikalsoundsystem.com. It is spelled a little funny, ARTIKAL soundsystem.com. You can definitely follow us on Instagram. That's probably where we're the most active. You can just find us at our band name. And we're also on Facebook. But I'm not as good about that one. And we have TikTok, but I haven't really been killing it with TikTok. We also have a Google number that you can always call or text us on, and it's kind of hit or miss whether we pick up, but that's listed on our Instagram.
That's kind of hit or miss, but yeah, try it out. Also,
see what happens.
Facebook groups are super important to the
Yes.
assets.
Yes.
Yeah, that one is super cool. Everybody check that out, and please go out and support Artikal. They rule, and you know, you got to love that ass. One more question before we get done. The first time I chat with somebody, they always get the same question to end it out. Logan, it's been a blast. It's so great to kind of finally get to know you a little bit more, and the family keeps on growing. What does reggae mean to you?
Reggae to me means unity and a positive outlook, I would say.
And that's what it is, coming together, positivity.
Coming together, yeah. Positivity, overcoming things. Yeah, that's what reggae means to me.
Hey,
family, yeah.
Keep being funny, keep being yourself. Remember that all that past is gone. You've gotten through it, and man, good things are on the horizon.
Thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing, girl. We'll see you guys, all right?
I won't lie, I went to bed high last night. I'm not ashamed to say, come to think I was high all day. And I can get high when I wanna.